History remembers many great names, but few ignite the imagination quite like Hannibal Barca. His name doesn't just linger in the past, it roars to life, evoking images of audacious campaigns, unmatched military brilliance, and a fearless quest to challenge an empire's might. Hannibal wasn't merely a general, he was a force of nature, a man whose very existence defied the limits of possibility. Born amidst the fierce rivalry between Carthage and Rome, his life stands as a testament to what genius and unyielding determination can achieve against insurmountable odds. Hannibal's story is one of triumph and tragedy, of ambition and endurance. As a Carthaginian general during the Second Punic War, he dared to challenge the seemingly invincible Roman Republic. His audacious crossing of the Alps with an army that included war elephants remains one of the most daring feats in military history, earning him a place among the most celebrated tacticians of all time. Yet, Hannibal's legacy extends beyond his victories on the battlefield. His strategic brilliance has influenced military thought for centuries, inspiring leaders from Napoleon to George S. Patton. Polybius, the great ancient historian, wrote, "Hannibal was by far the greatest general of his age, and perhaps of any age." These words capture the essence of Hannibal's genius, a man whose strategies baffled Rome, and whose determination forced an empire to rethink its approach to war. But who was Hannibal Barca? What drove this man to pit himself against the mightiest empire of his time? What lessons can we learn from his life, his victories, and ultimately his downfall? Welcome to ASMR History. I'm Sophie, and tonight we'll embark on a whispered journey through the life of Hannibal Barca, a man whose name still echoes across the centuries. Our goal is not only to explore the story of this remarkable figure, but also to immerse ourselves in the world he inhabited. With each softly spoken word, let the weight of the past settle around you like a warm embrace, and allow yourself to drift into the pages of history as we uncover the tale of one of the ancient world's most captivating figures. But before we dive into the man himself, we must first understand the world that shaped him. Hannibal's story cannot be separated from the epic struggle between Carthage and Rome, two powers locked in a bitter contest for supremacy over the Mediterranean. To grasp the depth of his ambition and the magnitude of his achievements, we must first journey back to the great cities of Carthage and Rome, to the roots of a conflict that would define the ancient world. Let us begin where all great stories start, with the context that gave rise to a legend. The Mediterranean, a sparkling expanse of blue and gold, was once the grand stage where the ancient world's greatest powers vied for supremacy. At the centre of this contest stood Carthage, a city whose wealth, ambition, and ingenuity made it a marvel of its age. Perched along the North African coast, Carthage was far more than a mere city-state. It was the beating heart of an empire. From the fertile farmlands of the Maghreb to the bustling ports of Iberia, Carthage's reach stretched far and wide, weaving a web of influence that spanned the known world. Its merchants traded in gold and silver, spices from the east, and textiles from far-flung lands, their ships crowding harbours with the spoils of commerce. This vast maritime supremacy was the lifeblood of Carthage's empire, allowing it to project power far beyond its shores. This dominance was no accident. It was the result of generations of investment in naval innovation, shipbuilding expertise, and a tradition of training sailors who were second to none. The city's internal structure mirrored its external ambitions. Carthage's political system, though oligarchic, was a carefully crafted mechanism designed to balance power between its wealthy merchant class and its military elite. This system ensured stability while fostering the ambition that drove Carthage's expansion. At the apex of its military machine were the Barcids, a family destined to become legends, led by figures of unmatched charisma and strategic brilliance. The Barcids epitomised Carthage's relentless drive for greatness. They carried its banner across continents, their name forever etched into the annals of history as symbols of defiance, ingenuity, and power. Carthage was a city that lived and breathed ambition, its every action shaped by the pursuit of influence and dominance. It was this unrelenting drive that brought it into conflict with the rising power of Rome, setting the stage for one of history's most epic rivalries, a struggle that would forge legends, destroy empires, and alter the course of the ancient world forever. One of the most formidable Barcids was Hamilcar Barca, a brilliant general whose cunning strategies and ferocious leadership carved his name into history as a legend. During the First Punic War, Hamilcar commanded Carthaginian forces against the emerging Roman Republic, a burgeoning power from the Italian peninsula. Despite Carthage's naval supremacy, which often outmaneuvered and outmatched Rome at sea, the conflict ultimately ended in a bitter defeat for Carthage. The loss of Sicily, a coveted jewel of the Mediterranean, was a devastating blow, compounded by the subsequent surrender of Sardinia. These humiliations marked what Rome believed to be the beginning of Carthage's inevitable decline. The aftermath of the First Punic War plunged Carthage into a period of profound upheaval and uncertainty. Stripped of some of its most prized territories, the city grappled with economic hardships that threatened its very survival. Yet, Carthage's resilience proved extraordinary. Under the determined leadership of Hamilcar, the city embarked on a bold path to recover its strength, not by engaging Rome in another immediate confrontation, but by seeking to expand its influence and rebuild its power base elsewhere, far from Roman interference. Hamilcar turned his gaze toward Iberia, a land teeming with untapped potential, rich in resources, and ideally positioned to serve as the cornerstone of a Carthaginian revival. Iberia's abundance of silver and other precious minerals promised a wealth that could replenish Carthage's depleted coffers and finance the resurgence of its military and economic strength. But Hamilcar's ambitions extended far beyond wealth. He saw Iberia as a strategic stronghold, a base from which Carthage could rebuild its influence and prepare for the inevitable clash with Rome. With his young son Hannibal by his side, Hamilcar embarked on an audacious campaign to conquer and unify Iberia. His efforts were more than military maneuvers. They were the groundwork for a broader vision of Carthaginian revival and vengeance. As the Roman historian his treasury and enabling the recruitment and training of a formidable new army. Hamilcar's vision transformed Iberia into a fortified and militarized territory with strategically important towns strengthened by walls and garrisons, while alliances with local tribes solidified Carthage's influence across the region. The rugged landscapes of Iberia became the proving grounds for Carthaginian soldiers who were drilled and hardened for the battles Hamilcar knew were inevitable. This preparation wasn't just about physical might, it was a cultural and psychological renewal of Carthaginian pride and resilience. Yet, Hamilcar's most enduring legacy in Iberia wasn't the silver that flowed from its mines or the soldiers he trained. It was his son, Hannibal. Growing up amidst the campaigns, Hannibal was immersed in the art of war, the intricacies of strategy, and, perhaps most importantly, the unrelenting drive for Carthaginian vengeance against Rome. In the rugged terrain of Iberia, Hannibal began to form his identity, shaped by his father's determination and the harsh realities of conquest. Here, he nurtured the deep-seated hatred for Rome that would define his life and his destiny. Hannibal's early experiences in Iberia laid the foundation for the brilliant commander he would become, one who would take up his father's mission and lead Carthage into one of the most legendary confrontations in ancient history. As we turn to the story of Hannibal's early years, it is clear that the seeds of his destiny were sown not only in the campaigns of his father, but also in the very fabric of Carthage itself, a city forged in the crucible of ambition, rivalry, and resilience. It is in this turbulent backdrop that the young Hannibal Barca's journey truly begins. In the year 247 BCE, as the embers of the First Punic War still smouldered, Hannibal Barca was born in the bustling city of Carthage. His arrival came at a time of great uncertainty for his people, yet his name would become a beacon of hope and defiance against the Roman Republic. From his earliest days, Hannibal's life was steeped in the legacy of war. Born into the prestigious Barcid family, his father Hamilcar Barca was already a legendary figure, determined to restore Carthage's former glory. It was in the shadow of this resolute man that Hannibal's indomitable spirit began to take shape. As a child, Hannibal's education went far beyond the classroom. His father, a master strategist and fervent Carthaginian patriot, took the young boy under his wing, exposing him to the brutal realities of military life. But it wasn't just lessons in strategy and combat that Hamilcar imparted. On one fateful day, as legend has it, Hamilcar led Hannibal to a sacrificial altar and made him swear a solemn oath. With his tiny hands clasped in his father's, Hannibal vowed eternal hatred for Rome. This moment became a defining feature of his character, searing into his heart a fiery resolve that would guide his every decision. When Hamilcar led his forces to Iberia, young Hannibal followed, absorbing the harsh but invaluable lessons of warfare on foreign soil. Amid the rugged hills and treacherous rivers of Iberia, he witnessed firsthand the complexities of battle, the power of unity, and the cost of ambition. These formative years, filled with skirmishes and sieges, moulded Hannibal into a leader who understood the importance balance of adaptability and the necessity of earning the loyalty of those under his command. Hannibal's rise to power, however, was born of tragedy. Following Hamilcar's death during a campaign in Iberia, leadership passed to Hasdrubal the Fair, Hannibal's brother-in-law. Under Hasdrubal's guidance, Hannibal honed his skills in governance and diplomacy, traits that would later define his military campaigns. Yet, it wasn't long before the mantle of command fell to Hannibal himself. At just 26 years old, he assumed control of the Carthaginian forces in Iberia, a position of immense responsibility for one so young. Hannibal quickly proved his mettle. His leadership was a careful blend of cunning diplomacy and calculated aggression, recognizing that unity was the key to holding Carthage's fragmented territories in Iberia. He worked tirelessly to consolidate alliances with local tribes. For those who resisted, Hannibal's response was swift and uncompromising, sending a clear message that defiance would not be tolerated. His efforts were not in vain. Hannibal's campaigns in Iberia solidified Carthage's foothold in the region, ensuring a steady flow of resources to fund its resurgence. Victories in key battles not only expanded Carthaginian territory, but also showcased Hannibal's innovative tactics, including the use of terrain and misdirection to outmaneuver his enemies. His reputation grew, earning him the unwavering loyalty of his troops and the respect of his adversaries. By the time Rome began to take notice of Carthage's renewed strength in Iberia, it was already too late. Hannibal had transformed his army into a formidable force, one that could challenge even the might of the Roman legions. However, Rome's growing unease over Carthage's expansion would soon bring tensions to a boiling point. The stage was set for a conflict that would shake the ancient world. As Hannibal's victories in Iberia stoked Roman fears, it became clear that war was no longer a question of if, but when. With his father's oath burning in his heart and an army ready to follow him to the ends of the earth, Hannibal stood on the precipice of history, prepared to ignite the flames of a new and even more devastating war. The spark that would ignite the Second Punic War came not with grand proclamations, but with the thunder of siege engines battering the walls of Saguntum. This small city in eastern Iberia, a Roman ally, was caught in the crosshairs of Hannibal Barca's bold ambitions. To Hannibal, Saguntum was more than a strategic gateway. It was a statement, a defiant challenge to Rome's growing influence. He would show the world that Carthage was no vanquished power. To the Romans, however, the siege was an unforgivable affront, an act of war that demanded a swift and decisive response. The siege of Saguntum in 219 BCE was no ordinary campaign. It was a masterclass in strategic brilliance and psychological warfare. Hannibal approached the operation with meticulous planning, positioning his forces to encircle the city completely, effectively severing its supply lines and isolating it from any potential reinforcements. For 8 grueling months, the defenders of Saguntum fought valiantly, drawing on every ounce of their strength and resolve. They clung to the hope that Roman aid would arrive in time to save them. But Hannibal's resolve proved unshakable. His determination was fueled not just by a desire for conquest, but by the awareness of the symbolic importance of this victory. challenge Rome's dominance. The historian Livy later captured the gravity of this moment, writing, "Hannibal saw the capture of Saguntum as the first act of a much larger war. Saguntum eventually fell, its formidable walls breached and its proud people subjugated. The aftermath was devastating. The city lay in ruins, and its destruction was a clear declaration of defiance against Rome. The message was unmistakable. Carthage would no longer bow to Roman interference in Iberian affairs. When news of Saguntum's fate reached the Roman Senate, it ignited a storm of outrage. Senators viewed the destruction not only as a direct insult to Roman prestige, but as a deliberate provocation and an unmistakable challenge to their authority in the region. Rome's response was swift and resolute. War was declared, setting into motion a chain of events that would engulf the Mediterranean in a conflict of unprecedented scale. This war would not be confined to Iberia or Italy. It would stretch across continents and test the might, strategy, and resilience of two of history's most formidable civilizations. As Rome mobilized its legions, Hannibal was already preparing for his next move, a plan so daring and unconventional that it would forever cement his legacy as one of history's greatest military minds. He had no intention of waiting passively for Rome to retaliate. Instead, Hannibal conceived a strategy that would strike at the very heart of the Roman Republic. He would lead his army on an extraordinary journey, crossing treacherous mountain ranges and foreign territories to invade Italy itself. This audacious plan, one that defied all conventional wisdom, aimed to bring the war to Rome's doorstep, catch its generals off guard, and shatter the illusion of Roman invincibility. Hannibal's vision was not merely to confront Rome, but to dismantle its very foundation. This was no small undertaking. To achieve such a feat, Hannibal needed an army capable of enduring not just battle, but an arduous and perilous journey. From the rolling hills of Iberia, he assembled a diverse force of Carthaginians, Iberians, Numidian cavalry, and African war elephants, symbols of Carthage's might and a source of terror for its enemies. This army was more than a collection of soldiers. It was a testament to Hannibal's ability to inspire loyalty and unity among people from different cultures and backgrounds. The logistical challenges of such a campaign were immense. To reach Italy, Hannibal's army would first have to cross the Pyrenees, traverse the Rhone River, and confront the vast Alpine range, natural barriers that would have deterred lesser men. Supplies were meticulously gathered, routes scouted, and contingencies planned. Hannibal's lieutenants, men of skill and trust, were briefed on every detail of the journey, yet even the most careful preparation could not account for the unpredictable elements of war. Crossing the Pyrenees tested the mettle of Hannibal's forces. The rugged terrain and resistance from local tribes claimed men and resources, but Hannibal's resolve never wavered. His army emerged battered but intact, their spirits lifted by their leader's unwavering confidence. Each step forward brought them closer to their goal and further from the safety of home, but it also deepened their sense of purpose. At the Rhone River, Hannibal faced one of the most daunting miles of his journey. The river's swift, treacherous currents presented a natural barrier, while the hostile tribes gathered on the far bank posed a serious threat to his army's progress. Yet Hannibal, renowned for his ingenuity and unyielding resolve, turned the situation to his advantage. Employing both strategic cunning and sheer determination, he orchestrated a daring plan. He ordered the construction of rafts strong enough to transport his troops and, astonishingly, his war elephants across the river, a task that seemed inconceivable to those who witnessed it. The massive beasts, symbols of Carthaginian power, were ferried with precision, their crossing not only a logistical triumph, but a psychological one. The sight of Hannibal's elephants advancing across the Rhone sent a clear message. No force of nature or man would stop his march. This feat was a testament to his ability to turn adversity into advantage, and solidified his reputation as a commander capable of achieving the impossible. The journey continued, each step bringing fresh trials that tested the limits of endurance. Hunger stalked the army as food supplies dwindled, the bitter cold gnawed at their resolve, and the grueling pace wore down even the most seasoned soldiers. Yet Hannibal pressed on, undeterred by the mounting toll. For him, this was no ordinary campaign. It was a crusade for the survival and honour of Carthage. The audacity of marching an army, including war elephants, into the heart of Italy was not a mere act of bravado. It was a carefully calculated move, designed to shatter the illusion of Rome's invincibility and inspire his enemies to rise in rebellion. Hannibal understood the stakes. This war was not just a conflict of armies, but a struggle for dominance, survival, and the future of his people. As the Rhone faded into the distance, the greatest challenge yet loomed on the horizon. The towering peaks of the Alps. This seemingly insurmountable wall of rock and ice presented a barrier that had discouraged even the boldest of military minds. To cross it would demand not only extraordinary physical endurance from his troops, but also a leader with unshakable vision and resourcefulness. For Hannibal, turning back was never an option. He had led his army this far not just to confront Rome, but to redefine what was possible in the art of war. As the snow-capped peaks of the Alps drew closer, Hannibal prepared for the most grueling phase of his journey. The ascent would test every aspect of his leadership and his army's will to endure. Yet, within the peril of the mountains lay the opportunity to achieve the unthinkable. The invasion of Italy, a move so bold it would cement his legacy as one of history's greatest tacticians. With unwavering determination, Hannibal led his forces toward the towering challenge, knowing that beyond those peaks lay his chance to strike at the very heart of the Roman Republic and to etch his name indelibly into the chronicles of history. The crossing of the Alps stands as one of the most audacious feats in military history, a gamble that tested every ounce of Hannibal Barca's leadership, resolve, and ingenuity. In the autumn of 218 BCE, Hannibal began his march into the forbidding mountain range, leading approximately 50,000 soldiers, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants. The Alps, shrouded in mist and snow, were a natural fortress that no army had ever research wrote, "The difficulties of the Alps were such as no army had ever encountered. Hostile tribes lurking in the mountains added to the ordeal. These tribes, masters of guerrilla tactics, launched ambushes from the rocky heights, raining down stones and arrows on Hannibal's columns. Losses were inevitable, but Hannibal's quick thinking and tactical acumen often turned the tables. At one point, he feigned retreat to lure the tribes into a trap, allowing his forces to strike back decisively. These moments of triumph, though hard won, helped maintain the morale of his men during the seemingly endless climb. Yet nature remained their most formidable enemy. Landslides claimed lives and equipment, while the thin mountain air left even the hardiest soldiers gasping for breath. Food supplies dwindled, forcing the army to rely on forage routes and snowmelt for sustenance. Through it all, Hannibal remained a constant presence, walking among his men, sharing their hardships and offering words of encouragement. His unwavering determination was a lifeline for his troops, a reminder that their struggle would not be in vain. Finally, after weeks of unimaginable hardship, the army reached the summit. Standing atop the Alps, Hannibal gathered his men to gaze upon the land below. There, sprawling like an unguarded treasure, lay Italy. The sight reinvigorated the weary soldiers, filling them with a sense of purpose that would carry them through the remaining trials of their descent. But the descent was no less perilous. The paths were steeper, the footing more unstable. Men and animals alike slipped and fell to their deaths, and avalanches occasionally swept entire segments of the column into the abyss. By the time Hannibal's army emerged from the mountains, it was battered and diminished. Of the 50,000 men who had started the journey, fewer than half remained. The elephants, symbols of Carthaginian might, were reduced to a handful. Yet, what emerged was not a defeated force, but a hardened and resolute army, ready to confront the legions of Rome. The toll of the Alpine crossing was monumental, claiming the lives of countless men, animals, and equipment. Yet its strategic and psychological impact was even more profound. Rome, secure in its belief that the Alps were an impassable barrier, had never imagined an enemy would appear from the north. Hannibal's audacious feat sent shockwaves rippling through the Roman Republic, shattering their sense of security and exposing vulnerabilities they had long considered impregnable. The historian Livy captured the gravity of the moment, writing, "The Alps had been crossed, and Italy lay before him like an unguarded treasure. This unexpected breach of Rome's natural defences was a devastating psychological blow, as it demonstrated that not even their most sacred and trusted boundaries could deter Hannibal's resolve. Hannibal's strategy, a brilliant combination of innovation and fearlessness, was a masterstroke of military ingenuity. By avoiding a direct confrontation with Rome's formidable navy and opting for a land invasion, he ensured that his campaign would begin with the element of surprise. The survivors of his perilous journey, though diminished in numbers, emerged as a tightly bonded To his enemies, it was a stark warning of what was to come. As the icy peaks of the Alps receded behind him, Hannibal turned his focus to the Italian peninsula, where the true test of his campaign awaited. The journey thus far had proven his ability to overcome insurmountable odds, but the battles ahead would define his legacy. With unwavering resolve and a determination fueled by his hatred for Rome, Hannibal pressed forward. Ahead lay a series of confrontations that would challenge Rome's dominance and cement his place in history as one of the greatest military minds the world has ever known. The stage was set for a campaign that would shape the course of ancient history, and Hannibal was ready to lead his army into the annals of legend. Hannibal's campaign in Italy began with a fury that left Rome reeling. Emerging from the Alps, his army, though diminished, was ready to strike with precision and ferocity. What followed was a series of victories, so devastating that they shook the foundations of Roman confidence and military tradition. Hannibal was not merely a general. He was a storm, sweeping across the Italian peninsula with an unmatched blend of strategy and audacity. The first major clash came at the Trebbia River in December 218 BCE. Here, Hannibal demonstrated his unparalleled mastery of ambush tactics. The Roman consul Tiberius Sempronius Longus, eager for a swift victory, took the bait set by Hannibal. Feigning retreat, Hannibal lured the Roman forces into the icy waters of the Trebbia. Hidden in the reeds along the riverbank, his brother Marco lay in wait with a contingent of soldiers. As the Roman legions waded through the freezing water, exhausted and disorganized, Marco's forces struck from the flanks. The Roman army, caught off guard and surrounded, was decimated. It was a crushing victory for Hannibal, one that established his dominance early in the campaign. The Roman Senate, stunned but defiant, regrouped and sent another army to face Hannibal in 217 BCE. Their confidence, however, would be shattered again at Lake Trasimene. Hannibal carefully selected the site of the battle, a narrow valley hemmed in by wooded hills and the lake itself. Using the cover of the early morning fog, he positioned his forces in a crescent-shaped ambush. As the Roman army, led by the impetuous consul Gaius Flaminius, marched unsuspectingly along the narrow path, Hannibal's troops sprang into action. The Carthaginians attacked from all sides, trapping the Romans against the water. It was not a battle, it was a slaughter. Polybius later wrote, "Never before had Rome suffered such humiliation on its own soil. Flaminius himself was killed, and his army was obliterated, leaving Rome in a state of panic. But Hannibal was not done. In 216 BCE, he orchestrated his greatest triumph, the Battle of Cannae. It was here that Hannibal's genius reached its zenith, showcasing a level of strategic brilliance that will be studied for centuries. The Romans, desperate to crush Hannibal, assembled a massive force of nearly 90,000 men, determined to overwhelm him with sheer numbers. Hannibal, with a smaller army, knew he could not win through brute force alone. Instead, he relied on tactics that would redefine the art of war. Positioning his forces in a crescent shape, Hannibal placed his weaker infantry at the centre and his strongest troops on the flanks. As the Romans Romans surged forward, their formation stretched and became vulnerable. At that moment, the Carthaginian flanks closed in, enveloping the Roman army in a perfect pincer movement. The result was catastrophic. Livy described it starkly. It was a massacre, not a battle. By the end of the day, tens of thousands of Romans lay dead on the battlefield, their blood staining the fields of Cannae. It was one of the darkest days in Roman history, a humiliation that left the Republic teetering on the edge of collapse. Hannibal's victory at Cannae was not merely a military success, it was a psychological blow that reverberated across the ancient world. He had shown that Rome was not invincible, that even his most disciplined legions could be outmaneuvered and destroyed. Yet, despite his unprecedented success, Hannibal made a decision that has been debated by historians for centuries. He did not march on Rome. Some argue that his army, depleted and far from its supply lines, lacked the strength for a siege. Others believe he hoped that Rome's allies would defect, allowing him to win through diplomacy rather than prolonged warfare. Whatever the reason, Hannibal's moment of greatest triumph was also a turning point. Though Rome had been dealt devastating blows, it was not defeated. The Republic would regroup, adapt, and retaliate with a resilience that would eventually turn the tide. Hannibal's campaign in Italy, once unstoppable, would face its first signs of decline as the weight of prolonged war began to take its toll. The story of Hannibal Barca did not end with his defeat at Zama. Though his dreams of conquering Rome were shattered, his indomitable spirit endured, driving him to reshape Carthage in the aftermath of the Second Punic War. Returning to a city left humbled and impoverished by Rome's harsh terms, Hannibal turned his talents to governance. As a statesman, he implemented sweeping reforms aimed at restoring Carthage's economic stability. He curtailed the corruption of the elite, streamlined tax systems, and sought to rebuild the city's strength through careful stewardship. But greatness often invites enmity. Hannibal's reforms, though effective, created powerful enemies among Carthage's ruling class. These factions, threatened by his influence, conspired with Rome to undermine him. The Romans, ever wary of their old adversary, demanded his removal from power. Faced with mounting pressure, Hannibal chose exile over submission. It was a bitter departure for the man who had given everything for his city, yet it also marked the beginning of a new chapter. In exile, Hannibal became a wandering strategist, lending his expertise to the courts of Eastern kings. From the Seleucid Empire to Bithynia, he served as a military advisor, applying his unmatched knowledge of warfare to aid those who sought his counsel. Though far from the battlefields of Italy, his presence was a reminder of his enduring reputation as one of the most brilliant minds of his time. Yet, even in distant lands, Rome's shadow loomed large. Relentless in their pursuit, the Romans continued to hound him, refusing to let the spectre of Hannibal fade from their memory. In 183 BCE, cornered and with capture by Roman agents looming, Hannibal Barca made a fateful decision. Refusing to become a trophy of Rome's vengeance, he chose to end his life on his own terms. With poison in hand, Hannibal ensured that even in death he would not be subdued. This final act of defiance was a fitting conclusion to a life defined by audacity and resistance. His passing marked the end of an era, but his legend was just beginning. Historian Theodore Ayrault Dodge later remarked, "Hannibal was a military genius, unmatched by any before or since." These words capture the essence of a man whose brilliance on the battlefield and unyielding resolve forever reshaped the art of war and the course of history. Hannibal's legacy, however, extends far beyond the battles he fought or the empires he challenged. He remains an enduring symbol of resistance against overwhelming odds, a testament to the power of vision, ingenuity, and determination. His tactics, from his ingenious use of elephants to his stunning victories like the Battle of Cannae, are studied in military academies across the globe, where his campaigns serve as a masterclass in strategy, innovation, and leadership. Hannibal's name has transcended time, continuing to evoke awe and respect for his ability to defy the mightiest empire of his age. As we reflect on his extraordinary life, Hannibal Barca's story emerges not only as one of unparalleled ambition and conquest, but also as one of resilience, courage, and unyielding resolve. His journey, from the defiant youth sworn to oppose Rome to the master strategist who brought the Republic to its knees, remains a timeless reminder of what can be achieved through audacity and determination. Hannibal's life is a testament to the enduring human spirit, a narrative of a man who dared to challenge fate and, in doing so, carved his name into the annals of history. Hannibal Barca's life is a tale of audacity, brilliance, and resilience. Few figures in history have challenged the might of an empire so profoundly or left such an indelible mark on the art of war. From his audacious crossing of the Alps to the tactical masterpiece at Cannae, Hannibal proved time and again that ingenuity and determination could triumph over seemingly insurmountable odds. He was not merely a general. He was a visionary whose strategies reshaped the battlefield and whose legacy continues to inspire scholars, soldiers, and dreamers alike. His achievements stand as a testament to the power of strategic brilliance. Despite the limitations of his resources and the overwhelming might of Rome, Hannibal consistently outmaneuvered his enemies, turning the tide of battles with precision and daring. Yet, his story is not just one of conquest, it is also one of resilience, a relentless drive to defy fate, even when the odds were stacked against him. Though he ultimately lost the war, Hannibal's legend has far outlived his Roman adversaries, standing as a symbol of courage and defiance in the face of adversity. Hannibal's legacy extends beyond the battlefield. His life offers lessons in leadership, perseverance, and the unyielding pursuit of a goal. He has been celebrated as one of history's greatest military minds, his name etched alongside the likes of Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and Napoleon Bonaparte. But perhaps his most enduring gift is the example he set, a reminder that even in defeat, greatness is not diminished, but defined. Thank you for joining me today on ASMR History. I hope you've enjoyed this whispered journey into the life of Hannibal Barca. whose story transcends time and continues to captivate the imagination. If you found this exploration as fascinating as I did, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.